So, ladies and gentlemen, the Royal Rumble continues, and now as we go into another round, we are beginning to head into deep waters. So, it started earlier today when Daylyt put out the song AYO. It was a song going at Joey and Loaded Lux a little bit as well, as you would expect. It was a song that the first thing I noticed was he started the song off taking digs at New York. Uh, very Again, as a native New Yorker, I'm biased in that sense that when I hear that, it just makes me shake my head and get annoyed. So I do think that Daylyt and Ray Vaughn and all these West Coast artists continuously trying to use Joey as a proxy to take digs at New York as an entire region. I think if they continue down that path, it will backfire on them at some point. The same way it backfired on Drake when Drake said things like, "Hey, I get more love than the city that you're from, nigga." When he said it to Kendrick Lamar, referring to California, I do think if they keep going down that road, it will backfire. But regardless, he said they took shots at New York. He said, "Oh, look at the little New Yorkies trying to run with the top dogs." And overall, this is definitely a full circle moment, in my opinion, because New York in hip hop for the past several decades has really been an underdog, essentially. And it's New York's own fault, honestly. That's really what I think. It's New York's own fault that this happened, because the previous generation of New Yorkers, they were extremely arrogant during their heyday when they had the hip hop genre in a chokehold. They looked at these other regions the way they're looking at us now, and unfortunately, it's a full circle moment. It happened before I was born, but regardless of that, it's almost like you're paying for the sins of a previous generations, or you're dealing with the consequences from what the previous generation of New Yorkers kind of did, right? So now, full circle moment, New Yorkers is kind of being seen as the underdog, so much so that Daylyt is calling us New Yorkies, and also he's going out of his way to say they're trying to run with the top dogs as if we simply not competing. But then from there, we get into the song itself. I want to start with some things I didn't like. The number one thing I did not like, well, one of the things I didn't like was him immediately saying, "Oh, I thought this was supposed to be like a fair one," and the whole like you're a hypocrite for saying 20v1, but now it's looking like a 2v1. Like, shut the fuck up, bro. Shut up. Whether it's Daylyt or it's Joey Badass, I'm tired of these dudes complaining about 20v1 this, 2v1 that. Shut the fuck up, bro. This is a Royal Rumble type situation. This is a open season type situation. So either side, regardless of what side you're on, both sides complaining about there being an uneven number of people coming out, it's just annoying in my opinion. Nobody cares. Like when Joey was complaining about it and saying, implying that it's 20v1, I'm like, bro, you literally called out an entire coast. If they want to try to jump you, you should expect that. And now Daylyt is out here trying to act like, oh, it's a 2v1, as if we're supposed to care, bro. You and your people have literally been trolling Joey, and one of your main jokes against him has been saying, "Hey, nobody from New York has your back." So guess what? He brought somebody out from New York who has his back. It is what it is. What you thought he was never gonna try to bring anybody out? Really, he's mad that he brought out the greatest battle rapper of all time. It is what it is. It is what that's not debatable. It's either Loaded Lux or Murder Mook. As great as Daylyt is, Daylight's not in that conversation. Don't argue with me, argue with the wall. I don't care how y'all feel about that. But nonetheless, Daylight's still a good lyricist, obviously. So I was still curious, where's this gonna go? How deep is the waters gonna be when he starts to really go into this very dark place that he's clearly trying to get to? And so the beat continues on, and that's the next issue I have. This beat is ass. I don't know why he chose this beat. This beat was ass. The pacing of the beat was ass. All the beat switch ups were terrible because the beats would switch from one bad beat to the next. I'm not a fan of any of these beats. I tried to be open-minded because I'm like, you know what? It's a little eccentric, but I'm just like, I just don't like it. I don't think it worked. However, lyrically, Daylyt was spazzing on this. He was doing his thing. Like, he did an excellent job lyrically. Like, this is jam packed with bars, as you would expect, because even though I said Daylyt isn't as good as Loaded Lux or Murder Mook, he is still an excellent lyricist in his own right, or at least a good lyricist in his own right. And he leaned heavier into the P. Diddy freak off allegations. He said that Joe's favorite Pokemon is Jigglypuff. He said that Joe was allegedly taking back shots at the pool before Meek Mill. I'm not sure why Meek Mill caught a stray, but whatever. Like, maybe it's because Daylyt allegedly ghost wrote back to back for Drake, and he also dislikes Meek Mill. Who knows? It doesn't matter. Either way, he also alleged that they paid 2 Bitcoin to get the freak off tapes that show Joey Badass on them. I'm calling cap on that. I'm absolutely calling cap on that. Again, if they don't show the transaction on the blockchain, I'm not trying to hear it. You can fool these people that don't know any better, who don't even know what cryptocurrency is. You're not fooling me with that, guys. The Bitcoin's blockchain is public. If you really want to scare somebody, if you really want us to believe that you paid 2 Bitcoin for them tapes, put up the address for it. Put up the address showing put up the address showing the Bitcoin transaction where you sent 2 Bitcoin for them tapes. Put it up. Post it. Again, the blockchain is public. He didn't name drop a private blockchain like Monero. He specifically name dropped a public blockchain. Show us the transaction. It's easy to find. Show us the transaction. Show it. You know, if you don't show it, I'm just gonna take that as just you talking, just to talk, just to kind of throw that out there. It is what it is. Now, some people may say maybe he didn't literally mean with 2 Bitcoin. He might have just used that as an example, and they paid in dollar bills. Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Either way, he said that they paid 2 Bitcoin for freak off tapes that show Joey, in his words, you know, Jigglypuff or Jiggling Puff, whatever you want to call it. And either way, he also started to do some play on Loaded Lux's name, saying luxury it. I actually thought that was a dope bar right there. Then he also had the line saying, you going in for Lux, you wait. And then he also had another dope bar where he said double disc key on your deluxe. Like, he also had a line where he said he took extra D in the IE, which I was curious. I was like, I know people from California, they call IE, like they call the Inland Empire IE. So in the back of my mind, I was like, was he low-key name dropping the location of these freak offs? If Joey is doing what he's accused of doing, were these freak offs in the Inland Empire? Like, I don't know. I was just curious. That I may be reaching there, but that's something that definitely caught my attention. He had very many lines that were funny, like the line where he said, "Oh, you think I'm gonna bring out Kendrick? Okay, here you go." And then it's like a clip of either Kendrick or somebody impersonating Kendrick saying like one line, and then he cuts it off like, "Oh, okay," and we're finished. Like, I thought that was hilarious. And yeah, man, like it was a very, then also that countdown scheme that Daylyt did towards the end of the song, where he went from 14 to 1, was, in my opinion, that was insane. I thought that was really, really dope. But then from there, later, about an hour later, more or less, Joey Badass put out the song. He put out the song called Crash Dummy, which in my opinion, by far, is the best song to come out of this entire beef between, like, out of anybody, by far. The producer, Kirk Knight, the producer, he's low-key been snapping, because even the beat to My Town was dope. The beat to The Finals was dope. Like, the production that Joey's been rapping on has been dope, and it's starting to get more and more aggressive. This song, Crash Dummy, feels like a legitimate hit song. And because Joey's more of like what you, I guess, would call a traditional artist or rapper who is more used to making songs. I mean, even Kendrick knew against Drake, hey, the best route is to make that hit record, to beat them to the punch, and then also still take shots at them. because the hit records is going to be the ones that the things that people gravitate towards more long term. Case in point, Not Like Us, as of a few days ago, just became the longest charting hip hop song on the Hot 100 in hip hop history. So it's something to keep in mind. There was a lot of dope lines in Joey's song Crash Dummy where he alluded to Top Dog potentially teaming up with 50 Cent to and giving him the green light to go at Kendrick, which I thought was interesting. Also, he said that, hey, y'all keep saying I'm at the party, but you know who else was at the party? Top Dog. That's what he's claiming, that Top Dog was begging him to try to help put Rayvon on, which I thought was very interesting. And I've yet to see any news about Top denying this, so that's even more interesting to me, because Joey has been poking at Top Dog, not just Kendrick, but also Top Dog for this entire battle too, which I found very interesting. Clearly, Joey wants to bait Kendrick to pop out, no pun intended, and maybe even Top Dog too. He's trying to bait them. And what I find interesting is that many stans are very quick to praise anybody from TDE when they're baiting somebody. Like, you see YouTubers make 10-15 minute reaction videos losing their mind because AZ Chike was baiting Joey Badass in his Game Time video. But then when Joey's baiting Kendrick this entire battle, they want to act like it's clout chasing. But depending on who you talk to, that's kind of one and the same. But it's a trickier conversation, but I'm gonna leave it at that. Either way, Joey continued on by also implying that maybe TDE has a mole, which was a major accusation that he threw out there when he said, did you ever consider that TDE may be working for me? Where he flipped Kendrick's statement of, did you ever consider that I have someone from OVO working for me? He flipped that on its head, and now you got to start to wonder, is there somebody from TDE who's the mole? That would be not only ironic and hilarious, but it would be game changing for the whole dynamic of this battle. Like, is it Absol? Because Daylyt put out 2 more kind of soft, somber, bait feeling kind of tracks, where in those songs he's also taking some very light jabs at Absol, in my opinion. But to get back to Joey's song again, when you listen to Joey's delivery, it sounds very defiant, very aggressive, very arrogant, fully confident. In my opinion, it definitely embraces that New York energy where everybody is telling him that it's not going to end well, and he's doubling, tripling, quadrupling down. And I enjoyed it a lot. He doesn't, and that makes it, and that's what you're supposed to do. Somebody like Drake, he doesn't understand that. So once they started throwing accusations about him out there, he started panicking and getting nervous, which makes him kind of look more guilty, if I'm being honest. Whereas in the case of Joey, he's almost like he's dismissing those freak off allegations and saying, nah, I already called that out. I predicted your angle on my Red Bull freestyle. I ain't going for that. Let's talk about Top Dog and how he was begging me to help put on your artist. And goes back to that whole statement about TD East. He keeps doubling down on the statement TD East for some reason. I hope he's not doing that for no reason, because that would be a bad look. But he is doubling down on it. So you gotta wonder, like, was there an agreement between Joey and Top? Because Kendrick's not signed to Top anymore. So what if in a crazy plot twist, Top felt some type of way, they had a falling out behind the scenes, and he ended up giving Joey the green light to take shots at him? Who knows? Not saying that is the case, but it would be crazy. Speaking of Top, Joey also called out the fact that Top's son is caught up in some allegations of his own, right? Because everybody talks about people having what they would call a weird case. Top Dog's sons, who was the executives that Joey was talking about on Crash Dummy, is the one who recently got hit with some accusations of his own, which I thought was very interesting. It was definitely a very dope diss track. It's not as lyrically jam-packed as Daylyt's, in my opinion. However, it still was lyrical in its own right. It still was very lyrical, honestly. And then also, it was just it's the best diss song to come out of this entire thing, which I thought was very impressive. he also called out Rayvon because and Daylyt because he's saying, hey, y'all keep talking about pregnant women, but don't you got a daughter though? I don't know if Daylyt has kids or not. From what I understand, Rayvon has a daughter. He may be talking to both of them, but at the very least, he's talking to Rayvon. I thought it was smart to call that out because when Drake was talking about Kendrick's girlfriend, everybody got really upset and triggered by it. But yet, when somebody tied to Kendrick and TDE is doing the same thing that Drake did, a lot of people are sort of turning a blind eye as if that shouldn't be called out, as if that doesn't give Joey the green light to go off. Like, you can't act like when Drake does it, it's the worst thing ever. But when these guys do it over here, you just like you think it's acceptable. No, either you're all or nothing when it comes to these specific topics, and that's the downside to these type of beefs and all of this battling. Is a lot of people have very strong biases, they have a very strong bias for one person or one group, and it shows. Nobody wants to call out one side or the other. I try to be reasonable about it, even though even in my case I have some bias, but I try not to let that get in the way of when somebody has put out something dope. And throughout this battle, I think pretty much everybody outside of AZ Chike, I think everybody, I think everybody did a good job, to be honest with you. But either way, that's just something I'm throwing out there. Daylyt also responded. Again, he put out two responses actually. One was called I'm not gonna hold you, Issa, and then it was a picture of a chopped cheese. I'm assuming that's what he meant. And then another one was called Word is Bond. Both of them had a very soft, somber type feel. Part of me feels like it's almost like he's trying to bait Joey into like kind of trying to lull him into a false sense of security. I don't know if that is the case or not. It could be, it might not be. I don't know. I'm interested to see how Joey responds by the morning. I'm assuming by tomorrow evening, Joey should be back with the response if he hasn't responded. Like, I hope there's not a response happening right now because I don't feel like recording multiple videos. I just went through this yesterday where I had to record like 3, 4, 5 videos over and over again to try to catch up with all the updates that transpired last night. It was incredible. But let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know, did you think that Joey held his own on the song Crash Dummy? Do you think that Daylyt is running away with this with AYO? And then also, when do you think Loaded Lux is gonna enter with his own diss track? Because it's inevitable. Loaded Lux is looking for Light. He's looking for him, and sooner or later, Lux is liable to pop out and really start taking his own shots. And we gonna see if Daylyt wants to deal with that. Because at that point, it would definitely turn into like a 2-on-2 type of situation between Lux and Joey versus Daylyt and Rayvon, which I think that would be interesting as well. Because at this point, Rayvon's kind of falling to the wayside, but not really. He just dropped GoldenEye last night, which was dope. So he's not really falling to the wayside, but kind of is. So we'll see how that goes. Either way, this was definitely a great week. Regardless of how this plays out, this was an entertaining battle. Very action-packed, very fast-paced. Also, another thing Joey did on the song was he said that anytime, if you take longer than 24 hours to respond, it's a shot clock violation. I've already said on previous videos, I'm not a big fan of when people put too much attention to how long it takes you to respond, because sometimes people could just have stuff pre-made, already prepared, and then they'll make you think that they came up with it in an hour, but it's like they had most of that lined up already. But however, I think Joey using that was still powerful, because at that point you're kind of taking control of the battle low-key, like at least in the eyes of the public, on like a subconscious level. You're kind of taking control over it, basically saying, you're gonna do this on my time. You're not gonna be able to come and go when you feel like it and take days off. Nah, bro, you're gonna do this on my time. And with how fast Daylyt responded, that low-key is almost like he's saying that he is going to he's gonna comply with Joey's request or Joey's demand to do it on his time in less than 24 hours to avoid that shot clock violation. Which I know some people may say I'm kind of reaching there, but you also have to keep in mind that even though this is music, they're battling with each other. And sometimes when you're facing people in competitive environments, sometimes it becomes a conversation about who can impose their will. Like when you think about boxing, for example, like one thing that I do as a hobby, uh is like I like to, like, box and spar with people. And a big thing with boxing is like trying to push your agenda on somebody, right? Like trying to get them, not just boxing but sports in general, but definitely boxing, trying to get them to move where you want them to move them to, right? Like you're trying to set things up that way they'll do what you want them to do, whether they realize it or not. And then you'll already have the proper counter in place because now you've taken control of the narrative of this fight, of the flow of this fight, right? So for example, if I throw a jab and then I feint, or in other words, pretend to throw a punch after, and I do that one time and I see that you throw a hook, and then 5 minutes later, when we're fighting, I do that again, and then you throw that same hook. Now at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm pushing this agenda. He's, every time I push it, he's hitting me. He's trying to hit me with that hook, that left hook. So if 2 minutes later I tried that a third time, and you react the same way, trying to hit me with that hook, because I've already taken control of this battle, whether you know it or not. I already know once you try that, I'm gonna roll underneath where you're throwing that hook. I'm gonna roll underneath, and then your whole rib cage is exposed. So right there, I can come through, right hand uppercut, bang. You know what I'm saying? You see the example I'm giving. So that was a bit long-winded, but I just wanted to throw that out there, that maybe that does kind of help Joey, statements like that, because now it's like he's almost forcing. It makes it seem like he's forcing Daylyt to move on his time now. We'll see who gets tired first, because if it becomes a matter of who can have the endurance to outlast the other, I think that would actually favor Daylyt, because remember, Daylyt is a battle rapper. So again, when you're battling, you're rapping for 30, 40, 50 minutes at a time. So he's already used to having that lyrical endurance to just keep going and going and going. I don't know if Joey does have that. Maybe he does, but I don't know for sure, obviously. But I would assume that would favor Daylyt. But with the addition of Loaded Lux, whole different dimension, whole different dynamic there, because just like how Daylyt could last forever, Loaded Lux could last forever and a day. So that would also add an interesting dynamic. And then that's one angle you could win, is like who can outlast the other, right? But then from another angle, it could be a question of who has the better knockout punch, or in other words, who is going to eat. Because to me, in my opinion, a knockout punch can be two things. It could either be somebody putting out a excellent hit record that's a diss, and like Not Like Us, or like Back to Back, or like this Joey song, Crash Dummy, low key. That's one way you could do a knockout, in my opinion. But another way that you could do a knockout, in my opinion, is if you go out here and provide receipts, like real evidence when it comes to the things you're alluding to. Because Daylyt, it's like, look, you can imply or accuse Joey Badass of being at these freak offs, but if you're not gonna show, pause, but if you're not gonna actually leak out or release the actual evidence, I'm not taking what you say seriously. You can say whatever. That's a convenient angle to go with. That's why when Joey Badass said that he predicted they would do that, he is right. He's absolutely right. He did predict it. On the Red Bull freestyle, he literally jumped ahead of the gun and said, yo, I was at the Diddy parties. I never seen a freak off. Now, is he telling the truth? I don't know. I don't know none of these people. And that's why I like the position I'm in, where I'm not biased. I don't let my bias. I have a slight bias for the New Yorker. However, I still call this fairly, and I look at this objectively. And because of that, I'm just trying to see which side is more believable. And from my perspective, it seems like Joey's side may be more believable, but that is my opinion. Let me know what yours is. Actually, I take that back. Don't let me know what your opinion is. Just let me know, who do you think is winning right now? That's still technically your opinion, I know, but I don't want to go. I'm not arguing with nobody on any of this. If you just simply disagree and think somebody's better, just say, hey, the West is up, the East is up, whatever, and then go from there, right? So that's all I got. If you made it this far, I appreciate you and your patience and you having a long attention span. I appreciate long attention span having people. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. My name is Mfasis. I am a rapper and a music producer, and I do podcasting. This is the podcast. I like talking about music related topics. Leave a like for me. I see y'all watching these videos, y'all, then you don't hit the like button. Hit the like button. I'm trying to talk about hot topics related to rapping and hip hop specifically. I'm really not trying to dive too deep into, celebrity gossip. That's why I really haven't had much to say publicly about the whole Diddy trial, because I'm like, this has nothing to do with music itself outside of the fact that they're in the music industry. But that being said, I'm out.